Jan killed a guy.
Yeah.
And they kind of gloss over it.
Yeah.
Like, there is maybe 10 minutes of him being bummed.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get, like, Orlando Bloom's character being like, our hearts go out to the family.
Yeah.
And that's it. Welcome to the Year of the Movie podcast, the podcast where we talk about movies from the year of the movie 2023. We're your hosts with special guest, Sean.
Hello.
Welcome back.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
Good.
We started this podcast because 2023 was a goofy, strange, weird year for movies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
80 for Brady, Strays, 65, Barbie, Oppenheimer,
Cocaine Bear.
Cocaine Bear. Yeah.
Etc.
And so we just figured, why not? You know?
Like all good podcasts.
Why not?
Why not?
If you like this podcast, please consider supporting on Patreon, reviewing and rating wherever you listen to your podcasts, following on Instagram, and subscribing on YouTube. What movie are we going to talk about for the next roughly hour?
We are going to talk about the movie, not the game.
Oh.
Gran Turismo.
Vroom, vroom.
Vroom, vroom.
Mm.
If you don't know, the synopsis is based on the unbelievable, inspiring, true story of a team of underdogs, a struggling working-class gamer, a failed former race car driver, and an idealistic motorsport exec who risk it all to take on the most elite sport in the world. That synopsis is from IMDb. I would not describe the executive as an underdog.
Yeah.
Personally.
No.
A wacky guy, maybe,
Yeah.
but that's about it. What were your first impressions when you heard about this movie, and are either of you a fan of the Gran Turismo game?
First impressions, cool.
Mm-hmm.
I like cars.
Yeah.
Races are fun.
Mm-hmm.
I've played the game.
Yeah.
It's never been a game that I was like, I gotta get the new Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
I do feel like I was more into Forza, which was a different racing game.
Gotcha.
I like Mario Kart
Yeah.
and other racing
Oh,
games
sure,
are fun.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I've even played Gran Turismo. I'm gonna guess maybe not.
Maybe not.
But
I would guess no.
Mm-hmm.
but I did like I saw the trailer. That's probably how I first heard about this movie, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. You got the car pieces flying everywhere, and
Yeah.
they kind of come together, and you get a car. I was like, that's neat.
That's fun.
Yeah. And David Harbour.
Yes.
I was like, yeah,
Fan of him?
thumbs up.
Yeah. Yeah. About the same. I grew up car adjacent to people who are into cars.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, oh yeah, I get why that's a thing that people like, but it's never been an interest of mine. Never played the game. I didn't understand there was a lot of hype about it, which I think applies to most video games. There's a fun little subculture that's all about that game. So, yeah.
Yep.
And also enjoy Mario Kart. That's
Yeah.
more of my level of game. So the trailer is pretty fast-paced. It's got fast-paced music. It establishes early on that this is about a kid named Jan who loves the Gran Turismo game, and he dreams of racing real cars, but he comes from a low-income family where that just isn't possible. And then there's a contest to get real players, or to get players to become real drivers. And then there's a lot of quick shots introducing everyone, and it really leans into the underdog aspects of the story and the fact that it's based on true events and the high stakes nature of race car driving and basically putting an amateur into the Olympics, and
Yep.
people can get hurt. Yeah, it's a pretty good trailer. It's like, well edited and stuff.
Sure.
So, yeah. Talk about the cast.
The cast, David Harbour as Jack Salter, Orlando Bloom as Danny Moore, the underdog exec,
The underdog.
the rich underdog
Head of marketing.
who simply just wanted a board to say yes to his idea. He was not at risk of being fired.
Yep.
Underdog nonetheless. Archie Madekwe as Jan Madenborough. Tekuro Hira as Kuzunori
Yamauchi, I think.
Yamauchi.
Mm-hmm.
Jimon Hounsu as Steve Martinborough. Is that Jerry? Jerry Halliwell Horner as Leslie Martinborough. Daniel Puig as Kobe Martinborough. Darren Barnett as Maddie Davis. Pepe Barossa as Antonio Cruz. Maeve Cordier Lilly as Audrey. Nikhil Palmer as Persol. Joshua Stradowski as Nicholas Kappa.
Yeah, it's a pretty big cast. There are other people that I did not include because they're just kind of like vaguely mentioned or in one scene or something. I do want to mention that Jamie Kenna plays the pit crew guy who is the hardest on Yan, and his character is credited as Jackman Jones. So good for Jamie. But yeah, Jerry Halliwell, or is credited as Jerry Halliwell Horner. You might also know her as Ginger Spice. So that's
I see.
Yeah.
Of the Spice Girls?
Of the Spice Girls.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Good
Which
for her.
I did not recognize her in this movie. Yeah. But there she is. She's also so briefly in it.
Who does she play?
The mom.
The mom.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll talk about David Harbour and Orlando Bloom and Archie Midekwe's characters, but then Takahiro Hiro plays the creator of Gran Turismo, and then Steve Martinborough and Leslie Martinborough are Yan's parents, and then Kobe is his brother, and then there are other gamers that are in the academy that are Maddie Davis and Antonio Cruz, and then Audrey is a love interest, Purcell is a friend, and Nicholas Kappa is a rival race car driver. Yeah. So I did a plot breakdown. Stop me if I miss something. So Yan Martinborough is a lower income teenager living in the UK with his family. His dad Steve used to play professional football, and his brother Kobe is following his dad's footsteps, which Steve is very proud of. Yan's parents are worried about him not having a direction in life, Steve especially, and Yan's unrealistic dreams of becoming a race car driver. The only thing Yan does consistently is play Gran Turismo, and he's good at it. Marketing executive Danny from London goes to Tokyo to meet with Nissan. He talks to them about the impact of the game Gran Turismo, how it ignited a love of driving in millions of players. He proposes a contest where the top gaming competitors in the world play for a spot at an academy to turn them into real race car drivers. Nissan agrees, and Danny starts to look for a chief engineer. No one takes him seriously, and they turn his job offer down. Danny goes to his last choice, Jack Salter, a former driver-turned-mechanic working for Team Kappa. Jack also turns Danny down, but later accepts after getting some verbal abuse from the Kappa driver Nicholas at a dinner. Yan finds out from his friend Purcell that he has a shot to compete for the GT Academy. The night before his race, his brother Kobe convinces him to go to a party where Yan's crush Audrey will be. Audrey and Yan hang out. There's light flirting, and they talk about wanting to travel the world, and then they are just kind of like, okay, follow me on Instagram. I'll see you later.
Well, yeah, and then it's because they get interrupted because the police
shut down
show
the
up.
party.
Yeah, and then all the kids are like, "Oh, we gotta get out of here."
Yeah, and then it's also the night before Audrey moves away, I think.
Yeah.
So on the way home, they all get pulled over by the police. Kobe freaks out about losing his spot on the team if they go to jail, and Yan decides to make a run for it. There's a police chase through the streets. Yan loses the cops, and they make it home. Steve catches them returning, though, and as punishment, Yan has to work at the rail yard with Steve. Steve tells Yan he's really bringing him to work with him so Yan can see this is where you end up if you don't have a plan. Yan doesn't appreciate this attempted reality check. He leaves early, and he gets to the race at Purcell's with seconds to spare. He places first, and he gets a spot at the GT Academy.
Purcell's by the race is at a video game warehouse.
Purcell either owns or just works at a gaming. They called it a cafe.
Gaming cafe.
It's more just like there's full gamer LED lights. It's kind of a warehouse setup.
Yeah.
where they have like the top of the line gaming setups, and they
Full racing rigs.
yeah, they established that Yan is really good at Gran Turismo, and that he has played everyone there and like pretty much wins every time. So Purcell is just kind of like supportive, and he's the one who told him about the fact that he got the spot in the first place, and yeah, but they called it a cafe, and I expected like, coffee or something, and then it's a completely different setup.
Well, it's like the internet cafe.
Yeah.
Which I don't really know if those were like as big here. I feel like they weren't as like Europe, because I feel like it was just Europe is more walkable, so you can just walk down to the internet cafe. And...
Yeah. So Yan leaves for the academy. His mom is supportive, but his dad is pretty skeptical about everything. And then at the academy, Jack gives the gamers a reality check of what they'll face and the true physical nature of driving. He's pretty hard on them, but like, because you have to be. The group, including people like Antonio Cruz and Maddie Davis, they're slowly narrowed down to the top 5. They'll all race, and then the winner becomes the driver that Nissan will sponsor. Yan has an accident with Jack in the car. He insists it wasn't his fault, but that there is something wrong with the brakes. Jack checks the car, and he's surprised that Yan is right. Only someone who knows cars super well would be able to spot the issue, so Jack starts to take Yan more seriously. Yan wins the academy race over Maddie by a split second. Danny asks Jack if this is really the guy they want to go with, since Maddie is more press-friendly, but Jack backs up Yan's victory. They move Yan on to the professional circuit, where he has to place 4th in one race in order to qualify for his racing license, and then Nissan will officially sponsor Yan. Many people, including Nissan's own pit crew and Team Kappa especially, don't take Yan seriously and don't think that he can do this. Nicholas Kappa often plays dirty, and he does stuff like sideswiping Yan and boxing him in while they're racing. It's all like pretty dangerous hazing. And then eventually Yan gets his license on the last possible attempt. There's a contract signing in Tokyo, and Yan decides to fly Audrey out to go with him. He gets signed, and then they explore the city together. They kiss in a nightclub, and they're kind of together now, but it doesn't really come up for the rest of the movie, I would say.
Also buys not an iPod, but the Sony equivalent.
Yes. Jack listens to a Walkman pretty much all the time, and then Yan decides to upgrade him to a Sony music player.
Yeah.
And
everything is Sony branded in Sony movies.
Yeah. Because they also, like, they both have their music that they listen to. So Jack listens to, like, Black Sabbath a lot. And then Yan, to calm down before a race, listens to Kenny G and Enya. So that's, like, I guess they kind of bond over a love of music, even though it's very different genres. Yeah. So at another race, Yan is doing pretty well, and he's feeling more confident. He gives the not iPod to Jack. His parents watch him on their TV at home, and then there's a freak accident where his car goes airborne, and it crashes into some spectators. Yan is rushed to the hospital with Jack at his side, and then when he wakes up, Jack tells him frequently that the accident wasn't his fault, but a spectator did die in the crash. Yan immediately says he's done racing. He avoids calls from his parents, and he only really speaks to Audrey about how he's feeling. Jack takes Yan onto the track where the accident happened. He tells Yan about how he had a similar accident where everyone told him it wasn't his fault, but another driver did die. Jack makes a similar decision, or he made a similar decision to never race again, and he clearly misses it, and he regrets not seeing how far he could go. He encourages Yan to finish his lap. Yan does, and then he asks what's next. Danny tells Yan and Jack that some other teams, led by Team Kappa, are calling for a ban on sim drivers like Yan, because they called it, it's a driving simulation, not a game. The racing committee cleared Yan from any fault for the accident, but others are asking for his license to be revoked. Danny decides the best way for them to fight back is to race and make the podium with a full team of sim drivers at the Le Mans 24-hour race. They bring in Maddie and Antonio from the GT Academy for their full team of drivers. They literally race for 24 hours, and they take it in shifts and everything, and it seems impressive and terrible at the same time.
Yeah.
So they prep for the race at Le Mans, including a newer, faster car. Once there, Audrey, Parcel, and other friends from the academy all cheer on Team Nissan. Yan is prepping in his room when his dad walks in. They hug, and Yan says thanks for coming. Steve tells his son he's proud of him. Yan says he did this for his dad. The race begins. Team Nissan is in an okay position for the most part. They stick around 4th place. Towards the end, Antonio starts to lose ground, and they drop to 5th. And then Yan gets called back in early to finish the race, and the pit crew messes up, and then Yan drops back a few positions. They, drop something, and then it's enough time for him to fall back to, 9th or something.
Yeah.
And then Jack coaches Yan to follow the line, because, that's the whole thing, is that there's a
Optimal line to race.
Yeah. And then Yan says he's raced this track thousands of times in the game, and he wants to do it his way and follow his own line. And then Jack says that he trusts Yan, and he's able to quickly jump back up to 4th place, and he gets a new lap time record in the process. He's behind Team Kappa. It's a really close race, but Yan manages to get 3rd by another split-second victory. There's lots of celebrations. Yan and his team are on the podium, and they drink champagne. He celebrates with his family and Audrey. Then there's text that comes on the screen saying that the real Yan changed the world of motorsports forever, and he has since competed in over 200 races.
Mm-hmm.
The end?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I think one thing that was not mentioned was at the very beginning they had this little montage explaining Gran Turismo.
Yeah. Yeah, they did. And then, they were basically saying that, the creator made it, he set out to create the most accurate driving simulation in the world. He did. And then it became Gran Turismo, and it's a successful franchise and everything.
But there's shots of in a gaming studio of the creator pointing at computers and then them recording audio of different cars, and
then the credits shows the same stuff. So they do a lot of side-by-side pictures of Archie and the real Yan, and talking about his career and everything. And then the credit sequence shows the same footage again of the manufactured Gran Turismo footage, and it was weird to me that they didn't use real footage of the game being made.
Yeah.
So it's basically just recycled all the same shots that we saw 2 hours earlier. But yeah. Things that stuck out. The editing we felt was jumpy.
It's very jumpy.
Mm-hmm.
I described it as it feels like they filmed a TV show and then someone went in and edited together a 2-hour movie out of a whole TV show.
Like a fan-made supercut, basically.
Yeah. So it still tells the story, but it feels like things are missing and things are crammed in, and some of the scenes felt like previously on type of scenes, the way that they were edited.
When Jack shows up to Yan's door and he's like, "Follow me. We got to go to the track."
Yeah.
It really felt like
You know why I can't do that?
Yeah. It felt like that was a recap of what you missed, and then they get to the track and it's like, this is why they're here. And yeah. There were several things that we noticed where they would be having a conversation and it would be like it was supposed to be a fast-paced conversation of you got the odds stacked against you and you got to do this and don't mess it up, and everyone doesn't believe in you, but I do. And then they would stand up and you would see that it was in the plane, they got beer. You saw the waitress bring them beer. They had the conversation. Then he stands up and you see that the glass is half empty now, but you never saw him drink.
Yeah.
So just stuff like that where it's but where, how long did this conversation take?
Yeah.
They crammed a lot into one story, in a way that also, because of the editing, it feels like they just threw everything at the wall, and then they're like, well, it's on the wall, so let's leave it there.
You got your romance, you got your parents, you got the actual driving stuff.
Yeah, the romance of it all was not necessary.
Mm-hmm.
It really felt like we need something for women.
Yeah.
Because women don't like cars. And then the parent stuff, it was like, you get a good amount of parents not believing in Jan for like 20 to 30 minutes, and then he leaves, and we don't see them for like an hour.
Yeah.
And then, like, we never see them watching any of his races. They're never there at the academy to support. Once he, like, wins the academy and then he starts racing, we never see, like, shots of them at home watching until the race that he has an accident in.
And
so
then they just keep calling him.
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't go to the hospital to see him.
And it's like, we don't see his parents, like, get more invested, because like each race he's doing better and better, and so like we don't see them like, oh my god, like maybe he can actually do this.
Yeah.
All we see is them watching and then being proven right that this was a mistake because he had a terrible accident.
Yeah, and then they're in the crowd cheering at Le Mans, and then the dad is like, I'm proud of you. No, I'm proud of you.
Yeah,
I did this for you,
did
Dad.
this for you, Dad. And it's like, no, you didn't. This whole time you were like, you
Yeah.
were doing it. What?
Yeah. Yeah, I felt like they had to pick one. And it was, it's also the implications of like the class stuff, or like the class difference, because like they say that all the other racers, like, they have all these resources. I think they even say with like Nicholas, they're like, he just has a bigger allowance than you. Like, they say that they have all these other access to things, and then like that was Danny's original intention, was like, maybe there's a really good race car driver out there, but they just don't have the resources, so we don't know.
Yeah.
And they just play the video game, and that's their only outlet. And then that is also just like dropped after the first half hour, I would say.
Yep.
Yeah.
There is no information about whether like they've done this since.
Yeah.
Like, are there other sim drivers who are actually getting a shot?
Right. I don't believe so.
Yeah.
I can look up again.
And that's why at the end when it's like, he changed the world of motorsport racing, I'm like, but he didn't.
Yeah. He has had a solid career.
Good for him.
But yeah, I don't know like the longevity from it and stuff. We also said this felt like studio hands were all over this.
Felt like many studios.
Yeah.
Sony, the PlayStation division, the Gran Turismo, whoever made Gran Turismo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were all over it, and it felt like they were checking off the boxes of like, it has the romance, it's got the family, and it's got the zoom cars and stuff, so people should like it. And I would say almost. Like, if they just took one or two things away, or just let like some scenes just like chill out, just relax, then I think it would be more memorable, more cohesive. Yeah. But everything that's related to the cars was pretty solid.
Yeah.
Sound design was pretty good.
Sound design was good for the cars.
Yeah.
The way that they filmed the races, I really liked. There were elements where like sometimes they would bring like a video game over screen on some of the racing. I liked how they marked what place he was while racing.
Yeah.
All of the racing elements they nailed. So that is good about the racing movie.
Yeah.
I don't like how they shot the rest of it. Even on their wide shots, it looked too boxed in to me.
Yeah.
Like, everything still felt cramped in the frame, even on their wider shots.
That's fair.
Not counting the races.
Yeah.
Just their, like, dialogue or whatever.
Yeah. That's fair.
Anything stick out to you, Sean?
Just in the moment, I'm thinking of one, like, half a second shot where they briefly show him a picture of the love interest.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, this is totally, it's like, was that supposed to be there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was one of the multiple montages to show that, like, he's training or he's busy or whatever.
He's taking it seriously.
But then, like, in the middle of it, for, like, maybe 3 frames, they show that he's on his phone and he's looking at an Instagram picture of the love interest.
Yeah.
Just, like, so fast.
So fast.
Yeah.
Because they were just like, we gotta squeeze it in.
Yeah.
And we can't go over 2 hours 15.
Yeah, it's like they were trying to show that like he's a race car driver and he's learning to like commit to big moves and stuff, but also he's scared to call the girl. And I don't know. Yeah, that did feel like a weird thing of just like I feel like even with the music it wasn't really cut to that, so it's just like
Yeah.
Love interest.
Yeah.
Yep. Anything else before production facts?
I thought they had like a police chase scene that we talked about briefly.
Yeah.
They made that seem kind of like a video game at times,
Mhm.
like the.
They said because they jumped to. It was the only time they did it, I think, but they jumped to like a third person perspective, like Gran Turismo is set up, where like it seemed like this is also the first time that you see him in a car in the movie, and then it made it seem like in his mind he was like, okay, I'm picturing this like the game, and I can do this, and then they didn't do that with any of the racing scenes, at least like from that specific perspective where they had like the interface overlaid and everything. But yeah, they had some graphics. They had like I forget how they phrased it. It was like mission accomplished or something when they avoided the cops and
Like, achievement unlocked.
yeah. Yeah, and it was pretty good. I don't know the graphics of Gran Turismo if it was accurate to the game or if it was just like vaguely video game
I think it was
branded.
pretty accurate.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. Production facts. So this was it premiered at the Circuit des Spa-Francorchamps? Francorchamps.
Francochamp.
Spa-Francorchamps. On July 30th, 2023, following the Formula 1 2023 Belgian Grand Prix. There were several preview screenings on August 11th, 2023, before a full release in the US on August 25th. The original release was slated for August 11th, but it was pushed back to the 25th due to the SAG-AFTRA strikes. They did not move the international releases, though, so it debuted like on the 9th worldwide everywhere else except for the US. It has a 2-hour, 14-minute runtime, and it's rated PG-13. It was a chunky one. I don't know if a shorter runtime would be better, though, from our notes about it.
No, I don't think that it would be.
I think you could just move stuff around on the timeline and fill it out in a different way.
Yeah.
It has a 65% tomato meter with a 98% popcorn meter.
Wow.
It's got a 48 out of 100 from Metacritic and then an A from CinemaScore. Metacritic is an average of critic reviews, and then CinemaScore is from audience reviews. So audiences like it, critics don't. The critic consensus on Rotten Tomatoes is Gran Turismo's brisk action and feel-good underdog drama are undermined by its loose telling of the fact-based story, but this is still a generally solid racing movie. The audience consensus is basically just, if you like the game, watch the movie.
Sure.
Yeah. There was a Variety review that said it's like making a Fast and Furious movie without cynicism, and that was like on the positive side.
Mm-hmm.
And then I found a pretty good Polygon review, which if you don't know, Polygon mostly focuses on like video game journalism and related aspects. And they said Gran Turismo is a broad, trashy, true-ish sports drama that has a lot less in common with The Last of Us or the Super Mario Bros. Movie than it does with Triumph of the Brand advertorial like Air, Ben Affleck's biography of the sneaker. Its closest cousin is Tetris, Apple's retelling of Nintendo's tussle with the Soviet Union over the marketing rights to the classic puzzle game. Just like Tetris, Gran Turismo solves the conundrum of how to adapt a game without any characters by unearthing a compelling human story behind it. And just like Tetris, it strays pretty far from both truth and plausibility in its overcooked take on real-life events, then self-consciously frames those events with video gamey graphics to remind everyone of their unreal inspiration.
Tetris was fun.
Tetris was fun. I liked that quote because it was comparing like other 2023 movies that we've talked about. In that same review, they were talking about its stance was the inclusion of the video game aspects verged on cringy and unauthentic and like not fully committing to it and just like talking about the roots of the game and then just making it an action movie from that and then occasionally shoehorning in video game references. There was a couple of lines where people would say like let's go gamers and stuff like that they were like, well, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
But in that review they say gamers aren't an oppressed minority anymore if they ever were in any venue outside of their own heads and the media reflecting their fantasies. This kind of aggravated posturing isn't a good look in 2023. Geek Culture 1. Martin Burroughs' story is real and has a much more significant dimension than victory in some imagined gaming culture war. Games gave this kid from a low-income family a viable and affordable route into one of the world's most elitist sports. Gran Turismo could have used this inspiring true story to show how video games open up possibilities and remove barriers in the real world. Instead, it just uses it to score points. That I agree with.
Yeah, and I think I kind of said that too. If like this would be such an interesting story, told by not a studio.
Yeah.
Especially because like Jan killed a guy.
Yeah.
And they kind of gloss over it.
Yeah.
Like there is maybe 10 minutes of him being bummed.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get like Orlando Bloom's character being like our hearts go out to the family.
Yeah.
And that's it.
They really they center him in it and like just saying it's not your fault and everything because he's the protagonist, so that makes sense and everything. But his initial reaction of like, oh, I should never do this, like that this is the thing that like people were worried about. It's the thing that Jack said at the very beginning of like, if you don't take this seriously, you could kill yourself or worse, someone else, and then that happens and it yeah.
I feel like there wasn't enough of I'm just a gamer.
I'm just a guy.
Like,
Yeah.
I just wanted to play video games.
Right. And they also, like, they kind of contrast it with Nicholas Kappa, who is very, like, I guess, cavalier about the real world implications, or, like, the fact that he could actually kill someone with the stuff that he's doing. And they show Jan get mad at him at one point of like, you could have killed me, you could have killed yourself, like you're an idiot.
Yeah.
And then Nicholas is the one that's like leading the charge of like, well, this guy is dangerous and it's supposed to be like very disingenuous, and it is, but then they also don't show like, well, okay, well, this is just a kid who was playing video games in his bedroom.
Yeah, and like with the Nicholas character, I feel like there's just the tiniest hints of like Nicholas is upset with Jan because Jan worked for it.
Yeah.
And Nicholas was handed everything, and deep down Nicholas knows that he's probably not as good.
Mm-hmm.
But like we don't ever like truly see that. Nicholas is just like the bad guy who's kind of a jerk.
He just keeps smirking in all of the shots that he's in.
He's just kind of like, I deserve this, not you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The budget for this movie was $60 million, and at the box office, it earned $122.1 million worldwide. $44.4 million of that is from US and Canada, and $77.7 is from other territories. It was projected to gross between 12 and 15 million in its opening weekend, and then it debuted at 17.4 million, and that includes $5.3 million from preview screenings that were held for like a couple weeks beforehand. So because of that, there was some debate if it was number one at the box office, like they claimed. Warner Bros. Claimed that Barbie was still on top with $15.1 million in that weekend, but other publications sided with Gran Turismo, saying that including your preview earnings is standard practice for your opening weekend. So
Seems like Gran Turismo.
It won, basically. And then in the next weekend, it earned $6.6 million with a drop of 64%. So it was a little bit of a flash in the pan. Seems to be doing pretty well on streaming, though. It's been like in the top 10, or it was in the top 10 when it first came out on streaming pretty consistently.
I would say it's a great streaming movie because you can put it on, not pay attention during most of it, and then when the racing has happened, you can be like, oh, cool.
It wakes you back up. The production timeline. So July in 2013, Sony Pictures announces development on a Gran Turismo movie. In 2015, they have Joseph Kosinski set to direct with a new screenplay than what was originally announced. Kosinski instead directed 2025 F1 movie.
That's
so
very funny.
he tried and he did something else. And then 2018, there was confirmation that the Kosinski version of the project would no longer be moving forward. So
I bet F1 is just...
it's just that.
Yeah.
I think they tried to do like a true like in-universe Gran Turismo movie, and instead they went with the biopic version, which I do think makes sense for this. May 2022, it was announced that a film adaptation of Polyphony Digital's Gran Turismo video game was in early development at Sony Pictures and PlayStation Productions. All of those companies have their own production slates on this thing, so many people made this movie, or many studios were involved. And then also in 2022, Neil Blomkamp was hired to direct a screenplay by Jason Hall, and then Sony sets a release date of August 11th, 2023. September 2022, the lead roles of David Harbour and Archie Madekwe are cast. They're confirmed, or it's then confirmed that the story is a biopic about Jan Martinborough. And then November 2022, filming begins in Hungary. There is additional cast announced, including Orlando Bloom. And then December 2022, filming wraps. Seems like for the most part they shot in Hungary on an F1 track. Yeah. The director, Neil Blomkamp, is known for District 9.
Okay.
Other, like, sci-fi, Elysium.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sci-fi, kind of apocalyptic things. He said this was, like, the most polished movie that he had done, just, like, aesthetically. It was completely different. It's got 3 nominations listed on IMDb. From the 2024 Golden Reel Award nominee for the from the Motion Picture Sound Editors USA, for Outstanding Achievement in Sound Editing, Feature Effects / Foley, Oppenheimer won. And then the 2024 Black Reel Award nominee from the Black Reel Awards for Archie Madekwe for Outstanding Breakthrough Performance. It was awarded to Fantasia Barrino for The Color Purple, which we will have to watch at some point. 2023 Game Award nominee from the Game Awards for Best Adaptation, and The Last of Us won. So interesting that TV and movies are both in that category. But it was like The Last of Us, the Mario Bros. Movie, this, 1 or 2 other things were all nominated that year. The taglines for this movie that are listed on IMDb: based on a true story, from gamer to racer. Mm-hmm. Solid choices. And then the film is also sometimes credited as Gran Turismo, based on a true story.
Sure.
Yeah. From gamer to racer is a little weak, but I get it.
Either way, I hardly know her.
And then listed in the credits of the movie, they say that Jan Martinborough was a co-producer on the film, and he acted as Archie Madekwe's stunt driver. He was apparently originally meant to just be there for 1 day of shooting, but then he was such a good stunt driver that they kept him on the whole shoot.
Makes sense that he would be a good stunt driver.
Yeah, they were, because that was in like I think of like a Fandango video or something that I saw where they were interviewing the cast and the director, and they said that like the skill set difference, they were like, of course he's going to be a good driver, but the fact that then he can also like hit his marks and like know to do things at certain points, it's just like, oh, okay, let's just keep him. And then the Gran Turismo 7 game added a livery for the 2018 Nissan GT-R Nismo GT3 car that was inspired by the film, and then it was given free to all players who watched the trailer in-game. And then Gran Turismo, the movie, released on digital platforms September 26, 2023, and was one of the first early access films available on the Sony Pictures Core video-on-demand platform. Lots of words that I just said, but I guess the benefit of having so many studios involved is, promotion becomes so much easier when you have all these platforms built in. And then, as far as how true the movie actually is, from that same Polygon review, they say, but the big moments are all true or true enough. The GT Academy program was indeed the brainchild of a Nissan UK marketing exec who had to convince both Gran Turismo mastermind Kazunori Yamauchi and Nissan Motorsports division of its genius. That actual exec, Darren Cox, may not have looked as slick as Orlando Bloom does in the role, but he was as persuasive a salesman. Still is, if his producer credit alongside Martinborough and Yamauchi is anything to get by. Martinborough did indeed score third place in his class at Le Mans, compete in an all GTA or GT Academy. That keeps throwing me off.
It gets me too.
Yeah, I don't know if it would work out as well if there was a Grand Theft Auto Academy who turned people into race car drivers. An all-GT Academy team of sim drivers, and survive a horrific accident as the film shows, albeit not in the order the film shows it or under the circumstances the filmmakers contrive. There is one particularly troubling aspect to the way American Sniper co-writer Jason Hall and Creed 3 co-writer Zach Balin framed the accident, a freak occurrence at the Nürburgring circuit that killed a spectator. While the crash did happen pretty much as depicted, Hall and Balin's screenplay time shifts it in order to stage it as a defining, motivating setback on Martinborough's hero's journey to his Le Mans podium. The actual accident happened years later, arguably a tasteless reframing of a fatal accident. So the crash happened in 2015. Martinborough and the team placing third at Le Mans happened in 2013. And then the racing the new car, like the GTR LM Nismo that they also unveiled at that same Le Mans race, that happened 3 months after the crash. So they combined two significant races for him and then put the crash before that. And then the race that he did with the new car, the GTR LM Nismo, was a different Le Mans competition where the team didn't finish at the 23rd hour mark due to car malfunction. That's so rough. we had been saying, watching it, because like they start that race and then there's a crash immediately. And we're like, man, how embarrassing must that be, and like upsetting that you start a 24-hour race and then you just beef it on the first turn. Like, that sucks. That would also suck to get to the 23-hour mark then just not be able to finish it. So one spectator was killed in the actual accident, and several others were hospitalized. They did not say that in the movie. They made it seem like it was just straight shot one person. And then it is true that Martinborough went from the GT Academy to the Le Mans podium within about a 12-month period. So that is still very impressive. The timeline is still like pretty condensed. And then also in real life, Martinborough got his driver's license like weeks before going to the GT Academy. So like he had barely been in a car before he became a race car driver. The filming seems to have been almost entirely practical. The actors had really intense training for their car scenes. Archie Madekwe said that every scene of him in the car is him actually in the car. He was driving as much as possible. He did throw up often from the effects of the G-force, he said, on a daily basis. He is also 6.5 feet tall, which is a thing that they mention in the movie. They call him Stretch at a couple points of like, you have to be a certain height usually to be a race car driver. And Archie had similar issues of he just cannot fit in the car. So they had to change the seat position a lot between him and the stunt drivers. And then the shots of him getting in and out of the car in the Le Mans race were very difficult because it's like an even tinier window that he's getting out of. He was like, luckily I am very, wiggly, so it was able to happen. But and then Jerry Hallowell Horner, Ginger Spice, her husband is Christian Horner, who is the team principal of the Red Bull Formula One racing team. So she is very familiar with racing and has been around that world for a while. And then Archie Madekwe hadn't played Gran Turismo growing up or before he got cast. He doesn't really like cars in general, and they were like, "You're perfect for the role." PlayStation sent him the game and then a racing setup for him to play on months before filming began so he could practice. And then he had a coach to teach him how to play the game, who also has a similar history to real life Yan. This guy also started as a player and then races actual cars for a division of Ferrari now. So that's fun. That's all I have. If we want to rate or talk about anything else.
Anything else you want to talk about?
Did you say in real life the real Yan placed third at the academy?
So he placed third at Le Mans.
Oh, Le Mans.
Everything at the academy, as far as I know, is pretty accurate. Where he was first, and then I don't know who the other sim drivers were, if they did come from the academy, because they said in the movie that like when Orlando Bloom is like, we need to prove everyone wrong and have a full team of sim racers, and then they said like they picked those two guys specifically because they were in the top 5, but then they had also started racing professionally somehow, or like in the lower circuits or something.
It's like we had them on the back burner and didn't
Yeah.
tell you about it till now, but
Yeah.
they've been there and
Yeah, but he was first in the academy, third at Le Mans.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd give it a 2.
For the rating.
Yeah. I skipped our rating system and how we do it, but I'll just say I'll give it a 2.
It's out of 4. There's a 2.
That's all you need to know.
Yeah. I also gave it a 2. Our scale is well made or enjoyable.
That's what 2 is.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I gave it a 2 because it's really well made. It was a movie watching it where I'm like, man, that must have been fun to make it, but it doesn't translate to watching the actual movie. So,
Sean, would you like the scale?
I'd like the scale on 2 and 3 because I'm somewhere between there probably.
So our scale is out of 4 with 5 options. I'll just go through the whole thing like I was supposed to.
Let's do it like a pro.
0 out of 4 is, oh no,
No,
bad. 1 out of 4 is, who is a movie? 2 out of 4 is well made or enjoyable. 3 is enjoyable and technically good. 4 is Oscar worthy. So we're both on the 2. So.
Okay. It's a solid. It's either a 2 or it's a 3. Can we?
if you want to gamify it, you can give it a 3, and then our average.
Episode average will go up.
Yeah.
I'm good to gamify it with a 3. I
fair.
thought it was enjoyable, and I was like, if you were more into, like, if you were really into the racing game, it'd be like, this would be a good movie for you.
Yeah.
You would really like this. I liked it.
Yeah.
I don't think I'm as deep into the car racing
That's fair.
Sure.
zone.
Yeah.
But I was like, it's. I don't think it's purely 2. I could totally be up to a 3.
That's fair.
Well, that means the episode average is a 2.3.
Excellent.
I'm willing to give it that.
Yeah. That seems fair.
Yeah. Other movies that we've watched recently. We watched Novocaine.
We did.
Jack Quaid action movie. You can't feel pain.
Yeah.
And that's the premise.
It was a fun one.
It was fun.
It's on Paramount? Maybe? Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds
Yes.
right. Yeah, I thought it was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Jack Quaid's great.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like an action movie that I would watch regularly. Like it didn't like leave like a lasting image. It was just like that was a fun movie. If it's on, then maybe.
It's a fun premise, and I think that it's a good streaming movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. To test it out. So,
Yep.
yeah. That was fun. There are definitely some kills in that we went, ooh.
Mm-hmm. And some non-kills that.
Yeah.
Like, ooh.
Yeah. You should not survive that.
They were rough.
Yeah.
I don't think a hand would be able to move after.
After a lot of those, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember to follow us if you'd like, because we would like it. Let's do it. Our next episode is going to be about The Killer.
One of the more generic titles, I feel like.
Yes, but I've been very excited to watch it.
Yeah, it does sound interesting.
Michael Fassbender and what's his name? Who directed it?
The Killer. It's another biopic.
Is it really?
No.
Oh, okay.
It's David
about-
Fincher. That's
Yeah, David Fincher.
It's a Fincher, and I believe they shot it, or at least some of it, or at least most of it, on the Komodo.
Oh yeah,
So I'm excited to watch that.
yeah. Michael Fassbender and Tilda Swinton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leave questions and comments, and we'll respond on the VHS podcast.
Mhm.
But for now, we'll see you next time.
Goodbye.
Go on, get.